and welcome back to another episode of OHKO, a Pokémon VGC podcast. Internet's 2 of 3 of the season is officially done. The opportunity to talk all about that behind the scenes, as well predictions for the upcoming Pokemon Presents tomorrow. At least tomorrow at the time of recording this, because our podcast never lines up properly with anything going on. So Presents is going to come out, then the podcast is going to come out a couple hours later, and we look silly, but it's a good opportunity to laugh. Whatever. I'm Sierra Dawn, joined here by my co-host, Joe Brown. Pokemon, these times, these days. I mean, it's Pokemon Day, so like that one's a bit more on us. It never really lines up.
We will be lucky next year, though, Sierra, because the 30th anniversary should be on a Friday.
You already looked that up?
No, but I don't have to look it up. I know how calendars work. We just know that it changes the next year by one day. So the 30th, so the 30th anniversary will be Friday, I guess, right? Or Wednesday, however it works. Like, we'll be better next year. I don't know how to explain it. We're good. Don't worry. We're going to be good. We're not going to be screwed over by Pokemon releasing things Thursday. Yeah,
having the same birthday for 29 years.
Well, because it just happens to be Thursday is the issue. We always hit record and we're like, man, what a great topical episode, and then we upload it and then something happens Thursday morning all the time. So we're not going to have that issue next year. That's all I'm saying.
I'm still mind blown at the fact that this is how like the calendars work. That like the next year is just one day. Like I learned something today.
Unless it's a leap year, right? Because leap years throw things in they throw a wrinkle into the calendar.
Stuff is too complicated. It's whatever. But how's it going? I mean, any people that listen to and look at the video can notice that Joe Brown's in a very different space right now. But you've had some really exciting life updates going on.
Yeah, my lighting is a mess. Forgive me. I have not really set up a good lighting setup, but yes, I've moved. I'm in a new building. So for those of you who don't know, if you don't follow us in our OHKO Discord, I got a new job. I've moved last weekend. While Sierra was in Europe, I was moving to very cold Rochester, New York, for a new job. So I have a new job. I just started on Monday for this company called We the Hobby. They're a card breaking hobby company, live streaming on platforms like Whatnot and Fanatics and different areas. And so they're known for sports cards, right? Baseball cards, basketball, football cards, and they live stream. People purchase it on the app Whatnot, and you open it right in front of them and ship it to them. But they were expanding into the into the world of Pokemon, and they reached out to me to be one of their main on-air talents for Pokemon live streaming on their platforms. So I've moved to Rochester. It's been a busy time. Hopefully within the coming weeks, I'm going to get on stream, get on there. We the Hobby _evolutions is the channel on Whatnot. That's where we're going to do our Pokemon live streaming. It's already happening every Thursday through Sunday evening with some of the talent that have already been here. But yeah, Sierra, it's been a whirlwind. I want to say you did a great job, but I honestly have no idea, because while EUIC was happening, I had to drive for 6 hours to get here and trying to set up the apartment and trying to just figure out my life and everything over the last couple of days. I had no internet for 3 days. Like it's been an ordeal over here, but we're in place. We're doing well right now. We're getting set up for success for the start of a new job, new location, new house, new me, new everything, So I'm excited.
I'm excited for you, and I'm hearing as well that I'm carrying the EUIC section of this podcast.
I did watch the finals. I did do my due diligence there, right, to make sure I was prepared. And how could I not, with everybody talking about how incredible the finals match was between Dylan and Wolfe. And so I was like, all right, well, I have to see if the Twitter hive mind is living up to expectations. And it absolutely did, for sure. So I'm very happy I did watch it. I think shout outs to Lou and Lee. They're fantastic. 2 of our favorite human beings on the planet. We love them so much. And I thought they really did a fantastic job together in that set. And every time they're on a duo together on commentary, I'm just like so jealous, because I'm like, God, they're so good,
And Ben and Charlie did absolutely amazing. Charlie hosted EUIC last year, so this is his first cast at IC, and then this is Ben's first IC. And the juniors and seniors finals, super, super hype. Like the crew just all around, like I guess I did technically say it on the casual stream, so and like I said it to everyone there. So I'll say it here, but EUIC is my favorite event. I mean, I love the NA crew, but it's so nice being able to see the EU crew as well. Like I love them so much. I only get to see them like once, maybe
Yeah.
twice a year if lucky. So like it was really, really cool because this was actually the same squad that worked EUIC last year. Ben was SME behind the scenes. We had Costa. Costa was too cool for us this year and got picked up for LAIC, so he wasn't there with us this time. He was playing, but for like five out of 6 people returning, like it was really cool to be able to go for the run back. Like it was a good time.
Don't worry, I'm not offended at all that you prefer hanging out with the British people than us. I get it.
I see you guys so often. I have to talk to you like I have to talk to you for hours every single week on this podcast, right? Like I'm kind of sick of you.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
No, that's good. I get it. I mean, I love our European team. They're so much fun. Like I remember, I had never really talked to Ben before Hawaii last year, where he was the SME, and like we just hit it off instantly. Like we're just hanging out, having a laugh, you know, all the good stuff. So our EU crew is just as awesome as our NA group. So I'm happy that you enjoy hanging out with them, because if you didn't, then we'd have a problem. Then I'd have to pick sides.
It would have been
you would lose because Lee is on the other side. So it's unfortunate.
No, they're awesome. We get along. Like lose my wife, you know, like I love them all so much. But yeah, I am. So for VG, I was the only NA person there, and I think it was just so funny because going into the event, I was hosting, right? And my call time was 7 a.m., 6:45 a.m., 7 a.m. Championship Sunday. Like all 3 early. So keep in mind that I'm 5 hours behind. So my call time was essentially 2 a.m., 1:45 a.m., 2 a.m. And you know what the worst part is out of all of this?
What?
The entire weekend, I ate dinner at the hotel and went to bed. Like I wasn't going out. I wasn't doing anything. Like
no karaoke.
No karaoke. I was so like locked in. I'm so like I need to get my rest. I would sit there in bed for hours, not being able to sleep because at 9 p.m. Okay, well, for me, it's 4 p.m., so I can't sleep. Jet lagged so badly the entire weekend, and I get home. And you know what time I fell asleep yesterday? Like 7 p.m., woke up at 4 a.m., and I'm just like, no.
You saw the sunrise for the first time in years, and you're like, what is this?
I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, I even got to London a day or like 2 days early to try and like combat like the jet lag. Didn't work, was so exhausted the entire weekend despite trying my absolute best. And then, yeah, as soon as I get back, my body's like, all right, London time, we're good. So, yeah, the second this podcast is done, I'm going right to bed. Like, it's been rough over here.
Hey, no, I get it. You got to recover. It's a long flight, you know, and the time-wise, like, I think sometimes it might be easier coming home than, like, getting there too, or vice versa, depending on the location you're going to. But like you do have the experience, right? You've been to London a couple of times at this point. Was this your 3rd time, right? Because of Worlds and then 2 EUICs. So at least it's somewhat of a like you didn't miss out, quote unquote, because it's not like it's a place you've never been to before, right?
Yeah, which was like the nice part. So like there was a bunch of people that on like Saturday night was like hanging out, like the whole VG squad, and like I skipped out on that, right? Because it's like, well, I know these people, I've hung out with them before, and it's like ultimately I'm there for a job. I want to make sure to like be rested up, even if I just couldn't heckin' sleep at all because of everything else. But yeah, that was at least like the one nice part, and it was nice too because like obviously all the cast are staying in the same hotel, like. Everyone was like on the same page. So like we'd get back and we're like, we sit in the hotel restaurant. We're like, this is the best we're doing for food, guys. Like we can't be bothered. And then we'd eat there and then like everyone would go to bed. So it was across the board. Also, what was nice about not going out on the Saturday or like really hanging out with anyone outside the casters, there was a nasty flu that went around.
Oh,
like
no.
a very nasty flu. So Ugarte got it. He actually got it really bad. I was pretty worried. He had to stay an extra day. And then
Wow.
Jody was posting on Twitter about it. Michelle Lesage, TCG player, posted that she got it. I know a couple more people that were just not feeling well. Like there is a nasty bug that went around.
So it's for like your jet lag or whatever was for the betterment. It kept you safe, you know?
Kept me safe. So we take that. Some people are just starting to get ill, like more so today-ish. So I'm not completely cleared yet. But if I am good tomorrow, then I should be good.
Did you get to go to the Pokemon Center and stuff? Like, how does EUIC, because I haven't been in the last 2 years or whatever, how does the Excel Center in all of London ever compare in size or location or whatever to how Worlds was set up? Is it the same things or is it not as big? Like, how does it feel?
So it's a bit smaller. So for EUIC, I don't know if we want to like talk by through day or like by experience, etc. But we'll talk about Pokemon Center first. Also, got the super cute spider from there.
That is an awesome.
So
that is an awesome shirt.
So much. No. So it was like the same haul that it was before, I believe, but a big part of the beginning was just like for photo ops. So it ended up being a lot smaller in terms of like stuff you can get. They have like a lot of like the usual stuff. Like, don't get me wrong, they got their exclusive, the deck boxes. Like, they bring in a lot, but there was a lot of extra space. Like, it's not quite the same. Like, I'm trying to think in terms of the actual scale of product, if it is the same and was just misleading because of the event space. But I made my way through the Pokemon Center decently fast, which you know how long people can get caught up in those things. So
Yeah.
It definitely seemed a bit smaller. But it seemed okay. Like it was definitely still worth going to. Like, do not get me wrong.
Yeah, and I'm just still jealous of all the Ogerpon merch from the ICs this year. Missing on LAIC Ogerpon, EUSC Ogerpon. I'm sure she'll make an appearance at NAIC and Worlds.
Yeah. At least NAIC, like Worlds, like they revealed the key
That's
art
right,
for Worlds.
Yeah.
So I don't know about Ogerpon there, but NAIC for sure, because they did Hearthflame for LAIC, then the Wellspring for EUIC, and I know there's like kind of debate like in like between the casters. I know I've had it with my friends too, whether it be Teal Mask or Ogerpon for NAIC. The staff mat is Teal Mask, which means Cornerstone will probably be the one for NAIC.
Let's go, Cornerstone Gamers, rise up, baby.
I know that was your favorite, so I know that you'd be happy to hear that the Cornerstone Ogerpon is gonna get some love.
That's like the only tweet I made all weekend. Or one, I told Ogerpon to put a jacket on because they took a photo of Ogerpon plush just like out with the river behind them. I was like, oh my god, my sweet Ogerpon must be freezing. And then they did like a player profile or Pokemon profile on Cornerstone. And then I got to it. I was like, rock pond, my beloved. Like, it's just so good, Sierra.
I'm so a fan. There was a terrestrialized one on broadcast though, which
really?
I think is the first time I can ever recall seeing a terrestrialized Cornerstone Ogerpon.
It might be.
It caught me off guard.
But you know what? Like, critical hit rock, Ivy Cudgel's kind of slap. You know what I mean? Like, because rock is a really good offensive typing. So it's I think you do, whenever I played on Showdown, so you do catch people off guard with how much damage that the Cornerstone can do, because usually it is trained more defensively than the other masks are.
Yeah, you don't need terrestrialization for that, but like it was a crazy terrestrialization to see. It looked like Giratina, kind of like there was like these black like tentacles type things coming out from behind the mask, and I don't know, it was weird.
Nah, I'm a fan.
It was weird.
I saw multiple, just like looking at the list throughout the weekend, like, and it's not even just like a Trick Room Pokemon, right? Like, I think it is starting to be appreciated, and I think it did pretty well on the usage. Maybe it was like 8th in usage or something in the event. Off the top of my head, I can't remember, but like people are just starting to use it as a general support Pokemon in this format, and not necessarily having to be tied to Calyrex Ice Rider. Now, yes, they do have great synergy together, so often you will see them on the same teams. But you can like see Cornerstone, like I see like James Evans got top 16 with the Calyrex Shadow Rider, very clearly non-Trick Room team with Tornadus, Chien-Pao, Shifu. I think that people are starting to expand Cornerstone's role.
There we go. I got the usage. So day 1 usage is nowhere to be seen. I got bad news for you.
Okay.
Not great stuff. But something happened.
Those are the simpletons. They didn't understand.
They didn't understand. They weren't keyed in.
Exactly.
And then we get to day 2.
23%. That's the same amount as Fluttermane, same amount as Chien-Pao.
Yeah. So that's pretty decent, honestly.
Wow. Look at that. Urshifu's 61%.
I know. That's actually
so crazy.
Actually nuts. It's funny because like the top line doesn't necessarily change too much, except for like kind of Rillaboom falls down 2 spots for the other grass types. Rillaboom goes up 2 spots over the other 2 grass types, Raging Bull's still in the same spot. It's just the bottom line that changes actually quite drastically. The day 1 is Fluttermane, Chien-Pao, Farigiraf, Lando I, Wims, Chi-Yu. Then we get to day 2, and it's Chien-Pao, Flutter, Cornerstone, Ogerpon, Chi-Yu, Farigiraf, Iron Hands.
Yeah.
So Lando, Whimsicott completely fall off there.
Yeah, I think Landorus it's a Pokemon that like with the bulkification of the format and like everything slowing down and being a lot harder to one-hit KO, I think Landorus is finding a really tough spot in the meta right now because like its job is supposed to Life Orb Sheer Force you in the face and just one hit you and punish you for Terra Fairy and go Sludge Bomb, or you stay as an electric type and get hit by Earth Power, right? And I've even struggled trying to put Lando I on teams right now because like, do you then if everyone else is getting bulkier, do you then get bulkier? But then now you're going to get outsped by Focus Sash or Shifu's, or like just max speed or Shifu's. Like, so I think it's just in an awkward speed tier. We do need the ground types in the form, but as you can see on day 2, like the Lando Eyes were just not as successful.
Yeah, it's one of those Pokemon that goes in that long list of Pokemon. It feels bad when I use it, but it feels good against using it against me. But yeah, looking at restricted usage as well then for the event. If we're going to start off the episode talking about usage because we're talking we might as well fully commit to it, right? But this day 1 for restricted, Calyrex Shadow Rider at 19, Miraidon at 17, Cali Ice Rider 16, Zamazenta 13. Then for the bottom row we have Terapagos, Kyogre, Koraidon, and Groudon.
It's almost funny that like the numbers change, or I guess let's say the positions change with those top 4, but they're like very clearly the top 4 restricteds in the format, right? Ice Rider, Shadow Rider, Miraidon, and Zamazenta. So like maybe one event Ice Rider will be first and Shadow Rider second, and then you flip it Shadow Rider first and Miraidon second, then the third event Miraidon's first and Ice Rider second. Like you just know it is going to be those in some capacity that I feel like our production team doesn't even need to change the bottom half of the graphic too often, right? Because like you don't usually anticipate, say, a Lunala or a Zacian or a Necrozma Dawnwings to overtake Groudon or Koraidon in those 7 and 8 spots.
I mean, it's funny you say that because if we go over to our day 2 usage, you will see that nothing has changed about our bottom row except for a couple of our numbers a little off. And the only thing that has changed is that it's going to be more Calyrex Ice Rider that made their way into day 2. Calyrex Shadow Rider takes over a fourth of the field at 27%, and then Miraidon falls to 14.9, and then Zamazenta 12.2. So, yeah, no, pretty standard stuff when you look at the restricteds. Calyrex Shadow Rider and Ice Rider normally being near the top is pretty normal at this point. But then it's funny because for all those results, it didn't really convert too well in the actual like
Right.
looking at like the top cut of the event.
Yeah, it was almost like just one Shadow Rider in top 8, one Ice Rider in top 8. It's almost like if you expand it down to top 16, you get 3 more Shadow Riders, so it looks a little more representative. But in the top 8 specifically, you would think it was just like a Scarlet and Violet exclusive legendary event with 3 Miraidons and 1 Koraidon there, as well as an Ice Rider and Kyogre to finish out that top 8 there. But I think it was cool that a lot of times with Koraidon specifically, people often, you kind of need to justify why you're using Koraidon as your restricted, where you don't really need a justification for Ice Rider, Shadow Rider, Zamazenta, or Miraidon. Like, you're using it because they're good. And a lot of times people struggle with Koraidon compositions because you kind of have to, like, why are you putting this effort to make Koraidon work when you could just use Ice Rider or use Shadow Rider, right? But Wolfe specifically here, like, he found the reason. It was to make Screamtail better, to make Fluttermane better, like, to, like, punish, certain matchups. But if you look at it after Wolfe, I'm scrolling down, you get Victor Jimenez 22nd was the next Koraidon, right? So that's a pretty big gap. Into 45th and 49th are the next 2 Koraidons on the list. So it's not necessarily that like Koraidon had a big day. It was more like Wolfe and his team building style had a big day.
This team, by the way, crazy.
Oh my god.
Yeah, the 22nd place team, Ability Shield Koraidon with Dondozu, Tatsu, Chiyu, Flutter, and then Galarian
And the
Weezing. It's like, let's take the most annoying part of a couple of different teams and throw it all on one team, which, like, kudos, because making it a top cut, like, heck of an accomplishment.
I remember Justin...
Electric Terra, Electric
Dondozu. That's awesome. I remember Justin and Jake were specifically talking about this team right here, about like something that they would have to be prepared for or try to check, because if you are not prepared, you're just gonna get steamrolled. And so many Pokemon are relying on those abilities, right? That neutralizing gas. Even if Weezing doesn't have the greatest stats or the longest survivability out there, if you can just get rid of some of those crucial abilities, is going to be so important.
Yeah, and then of course talking about the Koraidon team, of course we'll talk about none other than Wolflick's team. I accidentally closed the sharing, so let me
That's okay.
Reopen that.
We got there.
But yeah, this is crazy. So first off, Wolflick winning the event with none other than Parrish yet again. Yeah,
also the Terra Bug safety goggles Incineroar. I love to see that, because you can see that, since Koraidon is essentially going Terra Fire probably 90% of your matches, you are going to have 2 quote-unquote fire types weak to ground. So switching that matchup there for Incineroar and resist ground attacks is probably really crucial for him. But I think this team as a whole, it really doesn't do a lot of damage besides Fluttermane and Koraidon and Incineroar with a Flare Blitz in the sun. Like, when I watched that finals match against Dill, like, a lot of the turns, like, you're just kind of hanging around waiting to do damage and waiting for this -2 Koraidon to hit hit a Flare Blitz because it's been intimidated twice and stuff. Like, the half of this team really is just pure support.
Yeah, but you can afford to have that when you have the Parrish song, right?
Exactly.
Like, I won't say who, because I don't know if it was posted publicly, but there was someone that I heard that when they went up against Wolfe with this team, there was a game where nobody had a single surviving Pokemon. It was a round of KOs for the house, including all of Wolfe's own Pokemon.
Nice.
Parrish wipes the board and Wolfe wins because he has the slower thing to die, right? Like, it's a team that you have the aggressive options to completely just bust through any sort of aggression the opponent has, anything that might be a little bit more difficult for you to go through. Or you can position and put them in a really awkward spot where if they make one wrong move, all of a sudden they're trapped in and they can just get Parrish Song. Or you can trap them and then just deal a lot of damage. They can't switch out. Like, this team, as with any Parrish Song team, is just absolutely nasty. And even though, like, not every Pokemon on the team hits hard. The fact that you have a hard hitting mode, you have the I'm going to perish song you to trap mode, but then you also have the Screamtail Encore disable. You can now also not do anything mode on it, while also just being such a fast Pokemon that is boosted by this Koraidon. There was one of Wolf's stream matches on day 2 where he had the Encore disable, and it was just like, that does not look fun to play against. Like, it is absolutely so obnoxious. So, like, overall, like, it's a really well balanced team for like exactly how he likes to play. And Life Orb on the Koraidon, like, a lot of people for these Koraidons have been
Right.
playing something more like this Clear Amulet and more of this collision course, right? So seeing this Life Orb, I'm not really scared of Intimidate, and just going for something that's more damage with this close combat, I think was really, really cool. Because Koraidon has had a lot of difficulties kind of standing up to the same prowess as Miraidon has in this entire meta. And I think part of it's been with the damage, another with the typing. Like, there's just kind of a couple of things like up against it. So to see the work that it was able to put in here was really cool.
Yeah, I think it's very important that Wolfe, and we'll find out in a couple months when the EUIC, I won the world's biggest event again, parentheses again. YouTube video comes out. But I imagine at some point during the building of this team, Clear Amulet just was not doing enough. If you're constantly -1 attack, -2 attack, that additional 30% damage from Life Orb is going to be like the difference, the make or break between winning and losing, and also being fully speed invested when so many of these Miraidons are kind of cheat, like trying to cheat their speed to get a little bulkier for so Miraidon can stick around a little longer. Like, Wolfe really took advantage of that this weekend, just preying on other people's tendency to go bulky and just running it super fast. And then the other thing I think it's important to know on this team specifically, if for those who like want to try Perish Song, and the reason why it works is all 6 Pokemon have Protect on his team, so it's not like you just have some sitting ducks.
Incineroar.
Like, even Incineroar, correct, still has Protect to try to ensure the Perish Song or the Encore disable strat. Like, the way that the team wins, he knows like Koraidon and Fluttermane can do most of the damage, and as long as everybody can make it through those 3 turns of Perish Song, he'll be all right.
Amoonguss with the Mental Herb as well, and then both Amoonguss and the Screamtail with the Terra Dark. That way, you're not going to get affected by Prankster if you're looking at the Whimsicott
and for Shadow Rider too, right?
Yeah. So that's really, really nice. So just a lot of different pieces on this team that's just very cohesive, which is nice. And then it's cool too because it was a call out after Toronto, like, hey, use Perish, like, well, I can, and then it's not good next format.
Yeah, because you can't use Kingdra at a USC, yeah.
And then this is just a very different take then on like the other Perish trap, but then it's so strong. So it's, yeah, it really can win with your favorites, guys. If you're a Perish trap, enjoyer, I got good news for you.
His favorites is in Incineroar, because all of those memes were so good this week. Like, Incineroar being perfectly positioned behind him on the graphic, like kind of like coaching him from behind, and the great friend Incineroar, and all the I think it's so funny that he's like, the only reason this is a thing is because he was so adamantly against and publicly against Incineroar, because nobody ever really would associate, like, if he wins he's won all these events with Incineroar and Amoonguss on them, right? The other 4 Pokemon kind of swap. I guess Fluttermane's pretty much been there consistently too, but like, no one else who wins a lot of events, it's not like, Shohei has run Urshifu Rapid Strike every event that he's been legal and he's attended in the last 2 years. But nobody is like, oh, Shohei's Urshifu his best friend, or because Shohei never publicly like was super anti-Urshifu about it. So like, because of Wolfe's own detriment, because of his own public disdain for Incineroar, he's now like Incineroar's best friend. It's just such a good meme.
It's also funny how it like ends up, considering it was Incineroar that won him the game in the the game 3 in the 1v2, because he underspeeds the Miraidon to get the KO there, and the Fraygraph can't touch the Incineroar. So like,
it's his ace, right? Like, his ace trainer Pokemon is Incineroar. Yeah.
I gotta give myself kudos, pat on the back here. So, did you watch the interview with Wolfe after?
only the Kendrick Lamar highlight edited versions of the "It's Not Enough" or whatever, but I didn't get to see the other questions. No.
Okay, I was pretty proud of myself. So go through the interview, the questions, etc. Right, and at the very end, you know how you're like one last like round of applause, everyone. This is your EUIC champion. I did. It's like, all right, one last Incineroar of applause, everyone, for your EUIC champion. And he just cracks up on stage. And I'm like, let's go. Best part of that is that was actually written to my script for my final call after the trophy ceremony. And it was like a joke that they had just wrote in, it's just like a little joke that they had written in. And then when I saw Wolfe in the finals, I was like, I'm going to strike it from this line, and I'm using it to close out him being on stage if he wins, because I think this would be funny. And sure enough, I got to do that. So, yeah, just to put another Incineroar joke in there, right?
No, I love it. It is funny that, like, Incineroar, Mungus, Fluttermane, like, those are the Pokemon he's associated with here in Scarlet and Violet, but they're just good generic Pokemon. Like, this only happened because everybody tried to gaslight on Twitter saying that Incineroar fell off at the beginning, like when he first came out in the second DLC or whatever. Like, if people didn't have all those long threads saying Incineroar was trash, like, Wolfe wouldn't have needed to use him in Charlotte to prove it was still good, and then we're in a whole different butterfly effect if people were just honest and understood. No, Incineroar's the GOAT.
Thank goodness for the Pokemon Socials team, because they get so much mileage out of the Incineroar. Did you see this one was crazy. This is out of pocket. The one where Wolfe was like, "Oh, does anyone have a Calyrex Shadow Rider plush I can borrow or something?" Like heading into EUIC. Don't know why, if he has crowd. Oh no, it doesn't matter. And then the play Pokemon person is like something along the lines of, "Yeah, I have one." And it's literally sent a photo of the Incineroar paw from the plushie holding the Calyrex Shadow Rider's neck up against the wall.
That's so good. I didn't see this. That's awesome.
Wolfe just replies, question mark, question mark, question mark. I also just couldn't believe that it was the Play Pokemon account that tweeted that.
I love when they get unhinged. Like when when they responded to Justin Tang at NASC last year with the Wo-Chien reaction and everything. Like all according to playing with Monkey Dory and stuff. Like, I love.
Or what was the one where somebody was in the washroom and then like the account was like, "Where are you right now?" And then they replied, "Don't worry about it." So you could tell the selfie's taken in the bathroom.
Yes, I remember that one. I love the social team. They do such a good job.
Oh, those are the best ones. There was I don't remember if it was NAC last year, if it World last year, I don't know, but there was also one where like they just do the most unhinged tweet of all time. And then like 20 minutes later, this is a Pokemon profile on Fluttermane. It gets photosynthesis, allowing it a boost to his stat in the sunlight. Common item, Mr. Edit. And I was like, what? The one.
Are we not going to address?
Awesome.
Yeah.
Like,
just like business is normal.
Yeah, so good, so good. But back to teams. I mean, yeah, Parrish, as Wolfe said, he's never lost a tournament with Parrish. I think somebody said that there was a team that there's a Parrish song mode on that he technically has years back, but I don't remember it offhand, so it doesn't exist.
Doesn't exist, yeah.
Doesn't exist.
It doesn't fit my narrative, so
no,
not my king.
Exactly. So we're talking about the teams, and we're talking about the teams that made finals. I feel like it's only fair to talk about Dill Yeoman's team. And also, talking about Dill, like, we reused the same script from last year EUIC, and we're like, oh shoot, it's a sequel. How do we change this up a little bit? So they've swapped the nationalities of the underdog and the Goliath beast to take down, and then
it was
like
all
they did.
Copy my homework, but change it a little bit so they don't know you copied, and it just changed. It was the NA veteran versus EU newcomer instead of EU veteran versus NA newcomer. I think Dill did like a really cool job showcasing not just personality, but also like how this team works and their own play style. Because even though you couldn't bring Iron Treads in the matchup, like just didn't have a great spot. Wolfe also couldn't bring Paris Song, as we saw, like the Paris Trap Core. Wolfe used the same 4 Pokemon in all 3 games and never brought the what's his name, the Screamtail or whatever. So I think that it was cool seeing not only the just 2 greats going at it back and forth, and Old Guard versus New, and Scarlet versus Violet, and Electric Train and the Sun or whatever, like the Paradox forms, but like it was also it didn't feel like Dill was outmatched. Like both of them were making huge predictions. Like I think Wolfe had it in the game 1 that he expected Incineroar to swap out or something, and then double targeted into the slot and got a knockout, and then Dill did it in game 2. Like so, even though Wolfe got the best of it in the end, it was still like a really close matchup that they deserve a lot of credit for.
Yeah, I mean, Dill had tweeted out something along the lines of, or like had said something about the lines of like not expecting like the most from the event, maybe like a 5-3, or like was debating dropping at some point. Like the expectations going into the event do not line up with the reality of what happened with Dill and their run, which is really cool. And I think the best way to describe what I got to see from Dill over the weekend is they played clean VGC. So that was something that going into the finals, sometimes you're like, okay, well, this is outclassed, or, it's just like, I knew that it was going to be a bad matchup for Wolfe, because of course we all look over the matchups too. Knew that it wasn't that great looking for Wolfe, that it might have to be like kind of like outplaying or outreading or outpredicting. But I was just like, we've seen Dill, and Dill's played pretty clean. Like, I don't think there's going to be those windows of opportunity for Wolfe to really capitalize off of. And if Dill doesn't give any room for Wolfe, well, then Wolfe loses, right? So I think how they played was really, really strong. I mean, this is someone that we've haven't gotten to see much out of. Then in the grand finals of the biggest event and putting on a really strong show. And like, I know they had tweeted out about like, oh, I look back over this match, etc. And like, I don't know, it's tough because in the moment, like, it's so easy to be like, oh, if you did this instead, but you get to the ending of the game 3 and you target into Incin, and you called out the 6 protects. If it had protected and Dill targets into the Incin, Dill also loses. Right. So that's making a call in the moment. You get it wrong, that happens. But it was a really close set between them, and I thought it was really, really cool. And with a team that Dill made sure to give like credit to, like, hey, like other people made this. This wasn't me. We've seen it at other events, but still want to call out a couple of the cool things on it. Roar for Rigorath, awesome. Yes. Love that.
Yeah, we saw the Incineroar claim a knockout and get switched out on the same turn from Roar.
Yeah.
It was like a parting shot with damage,
It is so awesome. And something too that if like Wolfe did try perish, like you just roar your Pokemon out. You're like, all right, get out of here. Get out of here. You need to move around. But then as well, the Iron Treads. Like, we had talked about the amount of Miraidon in the top cut and like the conversion rate and stuff. And then Iron Treads really being able to swing the matchup. Like, yeah, no wonder this team did well.
It's just so good in the mirror, and it's also so incredibly fast too, where you wouldn't think about it, as a Donphan clone, right? That it's so fast, but it really is. It's an exceptionally fast Pokemon with that Excadrill typing of like really strong offensive damage output that you can have, and a lot of thinking about Fluttermane, or you think about Miraidon, or other, maybe some Terra Fairy Pokemon out there. Like, you can really punish a lot of the rest of the field. And if you are expecting to, if you don't enjoy the Miraidon mirror match, which many people don't, I think that's one of the reasons it gets around the second or third most used restricted, is because people really don't like that matchup. That mirror is that it really turns the tides in your favor if you have an Iron Treads and they don't, because literally just look at Miraidon's. Okay, Electro Drift, immune. Volt Switch, immune. Draco, resisted. Dazzling Gleam, resisted. Like, if you have Treads in your opponent, their Miraidon is so much less useful if they don't have an answer for Iron Treads.
Yeah, like, no wonder, like, for a tournament where Miraidon was so strong that this team was able to just, like, pop off. So that was just super, super well done across the board. And even things like Incin, sometimes we see Rocky Helmet, sometimes we don't. But that was something that was clutch. I can't remember if it was in the Wolfe set or another one where the hit into the Incin meant there was the KO, all that good stuff. So yeah, it was cool being able to see too, for the UK, a hometown hero. I think it was something like there hasn't been a UK representative in like top 4 since like 2000, I don't know, in some event like way back. Like it's been a bit. It's actually Ben, funny enough, of all people, Ben
Nice.
on our caster team, but I don't recall the exact like circumstances around that information. But it was really awesome then to see someone from the UK in the grand finals. And geez, if you think a crowd is loud for Wolfe,
They were, yeah, that it was almost like a wrestling match, right? Of like kind of going back and forth, like between who you are supposed to root for or like who the crowd is naturally gearing towards. And they were very much like, you could say like, oh, this is an away game. This is a visiting game for Wolfe here. Like this is the hometown. The EU crowd was rooting for Dill compared to Wolfe. Not that they were rooting against Wolfe, but you know, it's kind of the same thing with Patrick Connors and Aurelian Sula, right? Like you could tell very clearly that New Orleans crowd had a huge vested interest in Patrick winning that match, and like it was just such an impressive set. There's no way you could have possibly watched that set and then like thought that it was Dill's only second ever accomplishment, like with how well they played. They had Wolfe on the back foot in a lot of different spots. And like you mentioned in the tweet, like, oh, I noticed some mistakes, and that's a part of growing, right? Like even Wolfe makes mistakes. Even the best players in the world make mistakes. I think there were a couple times when I was watching that like it was like a little too safe. I can't remember if it was game 3. There was a turn where they went for Wicked Blow damage onto Koraidon instead of just bringing Fluttermane down to Sash, and like you could have traded Sash for Sash, and then Fluttermane is way more important to Wolfe's success than I think that Urshifu was to Dill's, in my opinion. And like there was a couple of just Volt Switch safe plays instead of like I think it was game 2 where it was either Koraidon or somebody else had just protected, and like you knew that they couldn't protect again, or they only have a low chance, right? And like then go for the Electro Drift, like go for the win. You're up a game at that point. Like you might win this 2-0. Like go for the big play, but instead,
I mean, was it on a swap in, or like did the Miraidon just swap in, or was it already locked?
No, it protected the prior turn, and
so the Miraidon,
the Miraidon, that was Miraidon's first attack of the. It had swapped in on Koraidon's protect. You get what I'm saying?
Okay.
So you could choose. Yeah. I'm not saying your choice. Yeah, I understand what you're saying. Yes.
I'm making sure to distinguish this for the viewers.
No, I got you. So I think like some things like that. Like if you're up a game, you have that wiggle room. Like Joe Ugarte talks about all the time, right? Like you can try to make mistakes or go for the crazier plays, and not only that, but like you do have the experience deficit, right? Like so catch Wolfe off guard, go for some crazy things that Wolfe might not be expecting. Now he runs a calculation of every attack possible in his head to know what play to go for every turn. But yeah, I think overall fantastic performance, and top 4 gets the auto invite or something, right?
Yes.
For EUIC. So we'll see him at Worlds.
Yeah, so the fact that they got their Worlds invite, awesome. And we're talking about Worlds invites and teams. This I thought was a cool little story. Yosuke Takeyanagi.
Right.
Because if we had a lot of really strong Japanese players come across for this tour, a lot we actually managed to highlight throughout the tournament. And of course, for the Japanese players, they have a different circuit. They have to qualify through the GC, the Global Challenge, to then make their way into the nationals, to then try and compete for invite. So it's a very grueling, very different type of structure. But they allowed it this year that, hey, if they get an auto invite slot from an event with the championship points, they still get that auto invite. They cannot earn championship points, but they can get the auto invite. Right. So the other Japanese players unfortunately fell really close. Yosuke was the only one to get a top 4 spot in an auto invite, which is the first one. That is the first Japanese player to get the invite.
I love that.
So awesome.
I love that because it incentivizes the Japanese players to play out of region, right? And so a lot of times we don't have a lot of interaction with the Japanese player base outside of World, so it gives you incentive for travel, and so not only does it help them with their experience, but it helps the the Western players as well, right? Because now you are facing more Japanese competition more than one time a year, or like during, you know, online challenges or whatever. So I think it's awesome. There's 4 Japanese players in the asymmetrical cut of top 24 at this point. 1 Korean player as well in finished 17th. So I think that the more Japanese players earn, quote unquote, earn invites this way will incentivize more Japanese players to attend international events, and then it's also going to level up the Western players, which are going to get more experience against those Japanese players. So I love it all around for everybody.
It was cool because, of course, we got to showcase like the top 8 matches going into this. So I got to interview Yosuke after the win. That's an interview you should also go back and watch because it was like the most wholesome interview of all time for all the Japanese players. We had to have an interpreter. And then I had interviewed Yosuke on day 1 after, I think it was day 1 after a win. And then it was like the normal, like I'd say something, the translator repeats it. Yosuke says what he wants to say. The translator says it again in English. But Yosuke was determined to do this interview in English.
Nice.
So then I would ask the question, and then the interpreter would repeat it in Japanese, and then Yosuke would respond in English, and it was just so wholesome, so awesome. Like if you go back for an interview as well, like you got to watch the full Wolfe one, of course, but you got to watch this one as well. It was so wholesome.
I love that. I love that when they try to, you know, get their personalities out there, because we really don't get to see the Japanese players too much. We're not in their conversations on social media. We don't see them outside of Worlds. There's no Japanese IC for us to attend, right? So I think it's awesome that they're starting to expand out to the ICs over on this side.
Yeah, and then of course for the final top 4 team, UK didn't just have 1 representative in the top 4. They had 2. Terran Birdie, the second one. Another Miraidon. This one's looking a little bit more atypical to what we know. But, I mean, Miraidon was the Pokemon of choice heading into the weekend. And it was funny because for Terran, this is the second time they played on stream. But backstage, there's always me walking up to go to the stage to get the interview as the loser comes off, and a quick word exchanged, right? So like, I'm sorry, or like, congrats on the run, at least, like, especially if it's done like an elimination one. Those ones always suck. I never know what to say, or like, you'll get the next one. And then it was funny because I already passed by them and exchanged words after they had lost the first time. So that I got to go up to interview her, and they're like, it's the first time, like, not walking by me as I walk off. It's that I get to be interviewed, which was like, it was just like a funny little thing, but.
That's funny. I mean, yeah, Terran's been killing it recently, like a lot of top cuts. I also think it's interesting to note, like, this core, the Miraidon, Hearthflame, Whimsicott, Iron Hands crew, like, is they're on a lot of teams together. Like, Luca Terabelli also had that core on his Worlds winning team. But the Farigiraf, in all 4 Farigirafs, was just looking in the asymmetrical cut, all 4 of them were Terra Water, which, you know, you remember Reggie back the first time around, you had Rajan with the Terra Ground for the Miraidon Mirror and stuff like that. This time around, maybe you're not really going to Terra Farigiraf in the Miraidon Mirror, so you don't care about being a water type. It definitely helps against their Shifu, definitely helps against Ice Rider, helps against Kyogre as well. Kyogre's without Thunder, so I think that's pretty cool that like all the Farigirafs have adjusted to the Terra Water variant.
I mean, also Urshifu Rapid Strike at 60%.
Yes,
you got to fully have that respect. There is
you got to set up Trick Room somehow. You know?
Yeah, 100%. But yeah, looking at the rest of the cut, Gavin Michaels with Rain. My first OCIC, Gavin Michaels won with Rain. So
that's right. I was there.
I think Gavin is associated already as like the Rain guy. But like for me, like double down, like I think Gavin Michaels, I think Rain. So to see the only Kyogre here, I believe in all of Top Cut. Yeah, the only one in all of Top Cut.
Back when Palafin was just disgustingly broken.
Yes.
When he was just Terra, Choice Band, Terra Water, in the rain, Wave Crash, just like, oh my god, it was doing
disgusting.
Yeah, 500% damage to all these Pokemon, and now it's nowhere to be to be seen. How about our boy Joe Garte here with this Ditto and a lot of support with Grimmsnarl, Volcarona. I noticed, I saw a tweet. Somebody tweeted out the caster predictions, and you had Volcarona on it. I think it was in our OHKO server. People were talking about how dare Sierra betray Slitherwing for the Volcarona variant. And so I was like, yes, I agree. How dare she? But also I was like, well, she's not putting Volcarona over Slitherwing for nothing. So I had the suspicion that Joe was going to pop off with Volcarona this weekend.
There was a couple of reasons for Volcarona. First off, I knew Joe was running it. So that helps. Second, I did think it was genuinely good going on with everything else. Third, I do want to have a level of, like, I don't think respect's the right word, but like with the caster predictions, ever since somebody in OHKO had mentioned like Sierra put Slitherwing and I actually genuinely thought it could be good, I have a level of conscious over like what's being put on the caster predictions.
Right.
So if I was the only one doing a single meme pick, then I would have put Slitherwing. I probably would have put both of them and taken Lando Eye off. But Lou had put Gastrodon, Charlie had put Kingdra, and I didn't feel comfortable having 3 out of 5 casters have a pick that wasn't really
Meme-ish.
Analytical.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like, and no disrespect to them because I put Slitherwing whenever I can, right? Like I get it.
If anybody can't talk, it's you.
Yeah, exactly. So absolutely, like that is not meant as a shade thing whatsoever. But I was the last one to get my predictions in, and then when I saw that they both had those picks, I was like, I'd rather that it's the minority of these for fun picks rather than the majority of it. So that being said, I will drop the Slitherwing. Next event I'm at, whenever that is, absolutely no promises I'm going to drop the Slitherwing, but especially if I'm the only one, right? But that is something I wanted to be conscious of. So I do
love the maturity here, Sierra. I like that there is a world moving forward where slot 1, pick 1 doesn't automatically have to be Slitherwing. I like this growth, this character growth.
I'm going to make sure next event it is slot 1 just for you.
I'll be like, all right. Well, I guess the Discord's going to be happy.
Yeah, so that is the answering. But I also, like I said, I knew Joe was using it. Ditto, the same thing. Like,
he also had Swords Dancer Shifu here, but without like a prankster Tailwind or no Tailwind in general. It's not Scarfs, right? Like, because I didn't get to see how the team worked out.
You have the speed control with like the Thunderwave Grimmsnarl for this, but this is actually Joe's Worlds team.
Okay.
I don't know if everything is exactly the same. I don't know about stats, etc. But yeah, he unfortunately didn't have the showing that he wanted at Worlds, but felt like the team was still good and worth a run back, and he put a lot of effort into it. So yeah, he brought out the same Pokemon, same core concept that he brought at LA, where he had a really good result too. So yeah, it was definitely something like being able to Thunder Wave. If you don't have a Thunder Wave answer, like that's going to be a lot of speed control right there. You got fast options on the team, like you can boost yourself up with the Quiver Dance. So definitely a lot here, but yeah, it was a really strong team.
Yeah, I'm happy for our boy to get another IC top cut to his name.
Yeah. Other teams, I mean, we got Grant Laird with another Miraidon. This Miraidon, though, with Entei, which we do not get to see the most Entei in this regulation. That one's a little bit more of an oddity there. The normal set, but it was Grant's set up against Francesco Piopero, where this Entei and this Grimmsnarl put in work. Over time. This Entei, I burned every sacred fire, I swear. This Grimmsnarl paralyzed absolutely everything. If you don't have a Thunderwave answer, it's gonna do that. And then Francesco's entire team just kept getting paralyzed over and over and over and over.
And so you want to talk about the difference in team building, right? So all 6 of Wolfe's Pokemon had Protect. Only Grant's Entei has Protect. The other 5 Pokemon are not taking a
You don't need to protect your Pokemon if they can't move when they're paralyzed, which is exactly what had happened. So, yeah,
I love it.
Team put in overtime there. Don't see much Entei nowadays, so that is a thing. Teo team, Teo time. I had it I had this name properly put down. I think it's Teo team. I apologize, but this is going to be our final top 8 team. But looking back at like the Cali Shadow Clefairy,
I love
and then we
that
got
duo so
Pelipper
much.
on here.
I know Montana was like kind of trying to trick people on Twitter to like not account for Clefairy Shadow Rider. Like he was like, "Oh, it's not good. It's a don't worry about it." And I was like, "I see what you do, Montana." This team, this does feel very, and I don't mean in a negative way, I just mean in a general way. This feels very Reg G 1.0, like this team here. You know what I mean? And that's not a bad thing, because obviously a team like this could win a regional, could win in obviously just top 8 in international championship. But it seems like we're like, okay, let's stick with the classics. We'll use Incineroar, and then we'll use Pelipper for Wide Guard and Rain, and then Shadow Rider's the best restricted, and Clefairy for redirection. Like I like the synergy here.
It's the classic, you know. There's a reason that it was so strong.
All
in
3 Terra Water, by the way. Rilla, Incineroar, all 3 of them.
There was another team where I thought there was 3 Terra Water. I can't remember which one it is now, but yeah. Going back, the other top 8 teams, Joji Kaeda. I think one of, if not the only, Lando I in Top Cut. Francesco Piopera had the Tropicos. Heatran, Cornerstone. This is a team you'd be all about.
Yes, yeah, I saw Francesco's team. The Discord was also going crazy about Heatran for our Zacian team, but you can't just have like two ground weaknesses as our 2 main attackers. Like it was a little tough, but Heatran was popping off in the Discord. Shohei running his patented team, and the same taunt or Shifu that he's been using for 2 years now.
Shohei versus Tang on stream. Good one.
I have to go back and watch that then.
I know you do. I know you do. Kyle with Galarian Wheezing, Kyler Shadow Rider. Raph, we got some Canadian representation. We got a double of the Treasure's Ruin. We got the Ting Lu, and we have the Chien Pao there. Solo Dozo Zamazenta.
I love it.
James Evans actually got knocked out of cut by Joe.
That's heartbreaking.
Fate is cruel.
Now, does that equal the
That's funny. That is my first question when I saw them.
Does it equal 2022 NAIC top 4? Are they even now or no?
No. So they've actually played a lot over the years. I think so. James was ahead in matches for a while, but I think Joe is slowly caught up. So they're decently even in face, like head to heads. I think maybe James might have one more. I don't think in terms of like anything like happening. I don't think anything tops the 22.
Yeah.
You know, like miss crit burn on broadcast. I don't think Joe's had that level of luck against him yet, but he's holding on to that one for a special occasion.
Yeah, it'll have to be finals of an event, and James just like, I can see like we're even now, you know?
Yeah, another Cali Shadow. Matt Maynard. Another UK. Giulio Tarlau, Terrapagos. So a lot of the Italians were on Terrapagos. Marco Silva was also on Terrapagos, even though he didn't make a top cut. He just squeaked into 32nd place. So Deng Li. We have like the classic with the Cali Shadow, Clefairy, Demian Chao.
Yes.
Osakure, as well with the Miraidon. And yeah, keep going down from there. I started listing names, realized it's a lot to be naming, but more horses, essentially. More horses and like Miraidon that we highlighted earlier.
Only one Roaring Moon. It looks like he's using it's Diogo with that Tangang core, you know, with Lando, Cali Ice, Amoonguss, and Roaring Moon.
Oh. One Roaring Moon. So
also,
sad.
you notice,
and then
Dill was the only person that took a game off of Wolfe in Top Cut. I see it on the graphic.
Yeah.
He won 2-0 against Terran and in top 8 as well.
Yeah, no,
so credit to Dill.
I mean, for both of them, like both Wolfe and Dill made their way through the bracket, like 2-0-ing. So yeah, that was insane stuff. So other fun teams that we're looking through. Golden Go's fallen off. Best day ever.
Look at that stretch of like eight Italians in 11 slots or something. It's crazy.
Yeah, Luca Scianci, Luca Sciarabelli, Angelo Piscatelli, Marco Girardi, Marco Silva. Yep. Yep. and then Italian again. This team, by the way, we want to talk about crazy teams. One for the books. Galarian, Weezing, Cali Shadow, Mousehold, Iron Valiant, Roaring Moon, and Okie Dokie.
Wow. That is... it's actually awesome to see a team like this do so well.
9-3 record.
Because, like, just think about it. What are you leading against this? If you're just looking at a team preview, turn, game one and you exchange team sheets, you're like, all right, cool. Okay, Shadow Rider. And then everything else is just nonsense. And you're like, I wouldn't know how to play against this.
It's Choice Specs Cali Shadow 2. I didn't even know it got Pollen Puff.
That's awesome.
Like,
we'd have to ask if they got any Pollen Puff KOs that weekend. They had to have, right? Like,
that's just crazy. So,
oh my gosh, that's so funny.
Yeah,
because it doesn't actually matter, like, healing your own teammate, right? Because a Moongus with no investment and a Specs full investment Shadow Rider are healing the same amount on Pollen Puff, which just heals 50%. But it's just offensive Pollen Puff.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. So,
all right,
I still can't get over that.
So let's close out of this here. Let's get into the meat of the conversation of your weekend here, because I think we had so many people in Discord talking about Wolfe's moment and on stage, and it was cool, and everyone's making the cool TikTok edits and everything, and you happen to be there. You were in the moment. You're right there. You're in the video, and you were there for his crazy fissure rant back in 2023. You were the chair right next to him. So a lot of people in our Discord, they want to know, like, you keep being attached to all these iconic Wolfe moments. I think, didn't you call his win in Toronto too, if I'm not mistaken, right? You did Masters Finals for Toronto, right? So, like, your VGC career, like, you keep crossing paths with Wolfe. Like, how does that feel from your perspective?
So, like, first off, it's at any point for VG casters, like, I think I could safely speak for all of us. I won't say that I am, but I think it's pretty safe to say that it's really cool being, like, a part of any of these historic moments, because it's like the whole point is being able to use our voices to tell these stories, right? Or to be involved in there. So to be involved at quite a few crossroads now with, like, Wolfe along his journey, to be there casting the Toronto win, be here for the interview, all that, it's just cool. It's just like a cool little thing that's like, oh man. So I like that a lot. And then it's funny too that, like, some of, like, the most viral interviews that he's had, it's been me, because it's like, it's not even anything that's, like, involving me at any point. It's just, like, so happens. So that's just cool.
You just happen to keep being there. Like, you also had the remember Colin Hire in Oceania, it doesn't matter how much damage they can do if they can't do any damage, and people are doing those Chad TikTok memes of him. You were for that interview too. So there's just something that when you're in the big spot, like, everybody they bring out their best moment. But did you like open it up? Like, I imagine Skarsgård was hosting for CCG. Like, so did, like, you and Skarsgård open the show, or like, how'd you handle any of those big hosting moments?
I get so nervous with stage stuff still, which is funny because I love stage stuff. Like, I want to be out on the stage. So on day one, Spraggles and Charlie actually opened the show because they had the pre-show with the all the analysts from every game. The one where it's, like, in the lounge and you talk about, like, watch, etc. Which also, fun little fact. So only the two chairs on the left side had director audio. The two on the right didn't. Originally, we had sat in order of which our games were going to be in the players to watch for this beginning little pre-show thing on the Friday. So it was Adam, Pedro, me, Kurt. So I was not in a chair with director's thing. I'm pretty comfortable with hosting. It is literally my full-time thing. I do it, like, full-time for Valorant. I don't cast Valorant at all. I only host. So I'm very comfortable, like, being the one, like, leading the conversation and all of this, right? So me and Adam had discussed me swapping to the other chair with director's feed. And I had, like, a pretty detailed, like, list on how we were going to run the segment to make sure that we hit all of our points. We didn't go through things too fast, and all of this other stuff, right? So we get to the lounge the day of, and we're trying to work with the directors of like, hey, like we'd like to switch spots, and like they have to change nameplates and stuff, and then they're just like, I hear from like the talent handler, they're like, they just want you seated right now so they can get eyes on you, make sure like everyone's seated and ready, right? Because show going on. So I leave everything to the side, including my cue cards and everything else, sit down, play Pokemon Stinger rolls. You know, sometimes in rehearsals, just roll anyways. But instantly, like, we're kind of like, especially me and Kirk, because we don't have director audio, right? We're like looking around. Kirk's like, is this live? And then we're like, still looking. And then Skarsgård opens the show. And then at that point, we're still not sure if this is a rehearsal or not, because in a rehearsal, this is still exactly what you would do. So, like, he's opening the show, and, like, we're just like, I don't know if this is live or not, but, like, I guess we're taking it seriously in case it is, right? And then finally get a moment to look, and sure enough, on the big screens behind, we are live.
You're live, yep.
Oh my god. So I didn't have any of my notes. I was not in the chair with the director's feed. And, like, specific traffic, thank goodness we agreed on this, but we agreed that Adam would open the lounge, but I was the call to stage. I was the one to throw to stage. I was the only one who had spoken to producers on what that toss should be, because we were introing a band, and I didn't know if I was supposed, like, they didn't know if they were supposed to intro the band or just say opening thing. They didn't know the toss, and they didn't need to because I was supposed to do it.
Yeah.
But I no longer have comms. So we're watching the timer, and like, Adam's such a professional. He's so good.
He really is fantastic. Yeah.
So good. So I'm trying to like communicate. As soon as the thing's on, I point to me and like stage, and he's like, and then I was like, okay, just like let me know, right? Like obviously we can't talk at all, but it's all like hand signals. So we get to the timer, and he just like looks at me and he like nods. And that's when I start doing the ramp up, and like I wait for his bigger nod, and then I toss it to the stage. I have no comms. I'm purely going off what he's saying right now. But
It's
yeah,
all language.
that was such a way to start the show. Like that was, whew, that was a little nerve-wracking.
It's just it's par for the course, right? Just being thrown in sometimes with the stress of it, but that's what's live. That's what we love about it, right? Is you got to make it through. Like I get nervous. I don't really get nervous on stage. I'm nervous because I can't see myself and I don't know where I'm looking a lot. You know what I mean? Like with the camera backstage, I always know what I look at or what I look like and what I'm looking at and stuff. Like, so I don't mind being on stage and doing the closing ceremonies and like the trophies and whatnot. It's just in my head, I can't see what I look like. So I don't know if I look like an idiot or you know, if I'm looking in the wrong angle or something like that. But the other thing I did watch for like a millisecond on, I watched the TCG Masters Finals on the co-stream on YouTube on Sunday. I just had it on as I was moving stuff around in the apartment. I saw your tweet about the co-stream, so that's how I put it on, because I didn't even know it was happening. I know it's been a conversation of like a potential thing to happen down in the future, but like here we are. We got co-streaming with the other casters at NIC. Like, how did that go?
That was so cool. So the terms that they used was watch party. So for anyone who didn't see, it is live on the YouTube channel. It's a watch party for the Sunday. And they literally just had like a couch and a little lounge for the casters to watch the game. So there's a couple people that were like supposed to be like scheduled at certain slots. I don't know how much that stayed in tune throughout the day, but me and Relic, one of the Unite casters, were scheduled to open the show. Then it was literally whoever wants a spot, come take a spot. There was like no rules in terms of like what was going on. So it was really, really fun. And what I think was one of the coolest things about it is like how formal or strict or anything each of the games is different. So Unite, they're like, at one point they had all of us line up to go like fist bump the current casters on camera, unprompted, right? But then other games like we don't do that sort of spontaneous stuff, so it's not something like, well, like for VG we'd never, right? Like
right, correct. That
is not something we'd ever do. So it was cool to see, like at one point, like Zoinks runs in and starts like, the curse is broken, the curse is broken. And it was supposed to be a chill area, right? Like that's what we wanted. But then we had 2 open spots at one point, and it was Will and Amanda on the side, and they were just standing there patiently waiting for the cameras to cut to a break so they could come in, take a seat, and put a headset on.
Yep.
And I'm like, get in here, you two, come on, take a seat. And they're like,
is that legal? Are we allowed to?
Is that allowed? And it was funny because like that was kind of like some people would just waltz on in there, but like people got more and more comfortable. Dawes even joined the watch party for a bit.
How did that happen?
You could go in and chill if you wanted to. It was okay.
Because I saw a photo of Dawes on the stream. I was like, oh my god, I missed this. Like,
yeah, once TCG was wrapped, like I don't believe he was needed, or at least really needed. So he was more than welcome to go over. So, and he did the same thing. I wasn't there for it, but apparently he did the same thing where he like walks up to where like the cameras are and then like stops to wait.
It's second nature for us. Yeah, it's how we're conditioned. Yeah.
Yeah, but no, it was really cool. So like there was obviously a couple of things that need to be like worked through. There was only 4 headsets. Yeah. So you couldn't really like hear the people who didn't have headsets on, etc. I think the stream audio was a smidge quiet. But like the premise of it was so cool and it was so wholesome. So during Masters finals, well, even just like VG finals in general, like we near the end of the first game and there is already production like we need eyes on Sierra. Where's Sierra? We want her like backstage, like by the stage. Like they're very like, it's their job. They need to know where you are. They need to know you're in spot, right? So I didn't have time to go sit in on the sections. So I just stood to the side and kind of just like watched them. And there was another producer there too. And we were just talking about it. We're like, this is so wholesome. There was like 9 casters, like 4 on the couch, like 1 in the lounge, like 1 sitting in the armchair, like 3 on the floor, all watching the game. And it was just very cozy and cute, right?
That's awesome.
It was a very different vibe, but it was a really cool vibe. So I definitely hope it gets expanded on. Like it was, it was very heartwarming. Like you ever just like think back to days of like hanging out with like a bunch of friends, like playing like a video game and half of you on the floor, half on the couch. There's side conversations, but you're still just enjoying this thing. Like that's what it was. Like it was super cool.
Yeah, that's what I like. That's what excites me with it, because like just hearing how you talked in just the maybe 10 or 15 minutes I watched of the TCG finals, and you know, like the TCG casters trying to teach some of the Go casters about the game and stuff, and like that camaraderie we have between games, because we're all casters, we're all here for the same reason of Pokemon, right? So we have an inherent interest, even if we don't know the deep dive of each of our games interactions like that. Like we can still have good conversations because we have the same fundamental appreciation for Pokemon, and I think that's really cool. And those are some of my favorite times, like, you know, so like I consider, you know, some of the other casters on the team from other games, like I consider just as strong of friends as I do as our VG crew, right? From knowing them from over the years, and you know, sharing hotels of 6 people in one hotel room in the grassroots days, and you know, reminiscing, and you know, like, oh, you made it, you got to this event, I'm happy you're on, you know, Vancouver, I'm on Vancouver, like talking with Go casters or TCG casters. Like I love when we interact like that, and I think it only is going to be for the betterment of the production as a whole if like Go people know who Ross is, right? And if TCG viewers know who Amanda is, like that is just for the betterment of our personalities.
Yeah, and it was cool being able to showcase that, especially in a more like relaxed environment. So yeah, I hope it sticks around. I think there was pretty positive feedback for it. Like it was, I don't know, it was a very cute concept.
Yeah, I'm sure it was successful, and it was just like a dry run at first. Like I don't know if it's going to expand to like a 3-day thing, because we are a little busy on those first 2 days of an IC and of World. So I don't know how big it'll span, but I would imagine like they probably got a lot of positive responses, the production team, and they'll keep it around for future international events.
I hope so. So we're talking about all the different stuff that was happening, all the stage stuff. Ooh, all right. Before we answer Queenie's question more, because that goes back into like the interviewing stuff, and there's going to be a lot of stuff that I want input from you as well, because that's going to talk about hosting in general. And you hosted San Antonio.
Yep. Yes.
Get it, making sure my events aren't mixed up. Like I said, jet lagged. I'm so tired. So, trophy ceremony.
That dramatic pause has me
Dramatic
nervous.
pause. Yes. So the thing that I get nervous about with stage hosting is I'm not nervous standing up there in front of a crowd at all. It does not faze me. The thing is if there is a technical issue or anything happening, but you're on the caster desk, you're there with somebody else, and like you're decently hidden. If you are on stage and something goes wrong,
Yep.
your only lifeline is a little earpiece to your producer. That is it. Other than that, you're standing there in front of thousands of people live on camera and just gotta take the punches as they come. So we get to the trophy ceremony and I call out the junior finalist. No issues. Then I call out the junior champion and nobody comes out.
Oh.
And I'm standing there. Chris Brown is standing there. We both look at where, like, Fabian, that's the champion, is supposed to be walking out for him. We look at each other, and then after what seems like an eternity, I get the comm, oh, he's not coming. And I'm like,
That would have been nice to know. Thank you.
fantastic. Love that for me as I'm standing here and just made this dramatic call to him. So that was felt like I was gonna die in that moment.
That's terrifying. Yep, I've been there.
Yeah, that's my fear. That's my fear with stage hosting. Is things like that happen.
As I've said before, when Wolfe won in Orlando and I was the host, and the director ear cut out, or I ran out of battery on stage when Cameron was talking to me about when he was going to toss to me, and I was just dead. I had nothing. I think Brandon was doing the camera, so like he just pointed at me, and the rest of it was like, I hope everything's working out right. I have no idea.
I've definitely had it where like the IFB like beforehand starts cutting out, and I've told the camera people, and I'm like, you guys like just start hand signals right now, because like I don't think this is gonna last. But like having to cut like mid, terrifying. But yeah, that's what happened to me during the trophy ceremony.
That's awkward. Yeah,
it's fine.
I think Fabian won juniors when we were in Brazil together, because I remember seeing the photo and I was like, oh, I remember that little guy.
LASC 24. Yeah, Fabian won. Fabian Musicante. Then Ismail Ogi, the finalist, was the winner. Either it was this year or 23, one of the LASCs, and was EUIC finalist last year. So yeah, but yeah, all I did in that circumstance is I laughed, and I was like, I didn't even know what happened. I was just told.
Host on stage? Was it Skarzig or?
No, there was solo hosting.
Oh, don't we usually have two casters out there?
So for the award ceremony, they didn't have enough space on. So I think during the day they were like, just like with a personnel thing, I think they only wanted one. And then so for VG, they were going to have me and Charlie, since after we are going right into the closing ceremonies. But then they ended up cutting Charlie out of that and then having only me do the awards, because with Pikachu and the trophies and Chris Brown and the podiums, there just wasn't enough space.
Got it.
So then I introduced Charlie later, and then we do the closing ceremony. So yeah, all by myself. Worst fear. So yeah, I just laughed, and I was just like, early flights, like, you know how it is. Let's move on. And it was like, it was a fantastic save. I will give you that. Like I saved myself with that one. I was proud of that. But then I had to read like the next person off the cue card, because I was like, I was actually shook after that. I don't know if you could see it on my face at all, but I was just like, oh my God, I just lived through like oh my God, I was freaking out. So
live on stage, yeah.
Yeah. So then, yeah, the senior finalists, I had the names. I had every single name memorized. I put the work into that, and then I had to read it off the stupid cue card because I was so shook after that. So
yeah, you're a professional. You got this.
Yeah. Pain.
All right, let's get back to Queenie's question and just general conversation about hosting and interviews and whatnot.
Yes. So Queenie's question, by the way, there was like a kind of a two-part, part of which we had already like kind of touched on, which was like you're there for all the moments. And the second part was like, how do you prep like knowing like Wolfe kind of does this. And then expanded into when the winner interview happens with whoever wins the event, how do you decide what questions to ask? For EUIC, imagine you might have time to prep like a set of questions, but for regionals, is it on the fly? Is there a preset list? Some of the questions are more personal. How do you decide this is a good question for the specific winner? So do you want to answer first on a generic note, or do you want me to answer about Wolfe specifically first?
Sure, I can go first about like my own, practices, and obviously every caster is different, and their level of preparation is different, right? I know when Rosemary hosts, she has just like a whole notebook of things and Pokemon and names and like questions, and like she does a lot more preparation than me, where I don't know if I'm like lazy or not, but like I keep it more mental notes, like okay, remember to ask about this play from game 2, remember to ask about this. And I think, to me, like the most important part is to actually listen to what they're saying, which is actually harder than it sounds when you're doing interviews, because you have a director in your ear and you have the crowd, and you like, okay, do I have 3 minutes? Do I have 6 minutes? Okay, I need to come up with like 5 more questions. Oh wait, I only have 1 more question. What is the most important question I have remaining? Like there's a lot going on in those moments that it's a lot harder to just listen to what they're saying than it sounds like. And to me, my like go-to method when I host is to just have a couple of staple questions that I'm going to rely the thing around. It's like, okay, well, you won because you hit sleep pattern 3 times, right? So I'm gonna talk about sleep pattern and RNG, and also you've top cut 2 events in a row, so I'm gonna talk about consistency. Like having those bullet points in my head first, and then it allows you to branch off of it. So I don't have to immediately go from the sleep pattern question to the top 8 question. If he said something in the sleep pattern question, I can then, because I'm listening, branch off of it, and that oftentimes helps elongate the interviews. And our production team, they want longer interviews than shorter because it covers more downtime, right? So I think that's my best advice, not even just advice, is my preparation is having probably 3 bullet point most important conversation points of topics of discussion, for lack of a better word, and being able to branch in either direction depending on what they say, because it's not really important for what you're trying to ask. What's important is what their answers are.
Yeah, definitely big agree with like listening. So for myself, like I had cue cards. I had a bunch of stuff written on those cue cards, but a lot of it's just like notes of stuff to jog my memory on stuff that I kind of want to be asking. It's not like preset questions, or I don't actually ever ask everything that's on there. It's like a general guideline. If like I stumble or there ends up being an awkward pause or something, where I know where to pick myself back up. But having like the mental notes of kind of things that happen, I write it down so it's there, and then go into the interview. And then it's also really important to like read the energy of the interview. So like there has been times where I go into the interview with a certain vibe and the player's giving me something completely different. So like I go in there with like yeah, you did this in game 1 and then adapt for game 2, but then the player ends up being more emotional because hey, this event meant a lot to them because they weren't feeling good beforehand, or etc. So you like kind of throw away your other question, because if they're like, man, I'm just like I didn't think I didn't do it, I couldn't believe in myself, and then you're like, how do hey, you hit the sleep powder though, how do you feel about that? Like it's starring like 180. So like being able to actually listen, respond, and adapt to whatever situation's being given to you, I think is a really good skill in a host. Like Joe Brown, you crush it with your host stuff. Like you crush it with the interviews. I think we have a really strong team for interviews across the board. And I think like that's one of the most important things with it. And I think too that when you notice an interview is maybe a little bit more lackluster, it's where the host and the interviewee don't necessarily get to connect, whether that is like they're not really opening up for the interview, whether you're asking bad questions. But when there's the disconnect is when the interview just kind of feels split. When you're able to just sit there and have a conversation, listen, respond, and be able to properly respond is absolutely humongous. And I think too, making sure the player's comfortable. So
100%.
like we had talked about sound bites. Like the players are comfortable to do that, you know, like kind of give them a softball question because like knowing the person, I know that there's somebody that can say something. They'll have something to say, so I can kind of make them feel comfortable with the situation, toss them a softball, and they're just gonna hit it out of the park. Like they've got it covered, right? And I think that's what's worked really well with like me interviewing Wolfe. I've gotten a lot better at, I know Wolfe has ideas of what he wants to say. I'm not going to try and micromanage too much of that. I'm going to ask pretty generic questions, poke and prod if I need to, but he'll be able to follow up with where he wants to, and I trust that he'll be able to go in a good direction with that. So that was kind of the interview that I had with him afterwards, like very much so that. Like my first thing to him was like, what's going through your mind? It's not a, how do you feel after this match? Or you just became champion. How are you happy? It is, what's going through your mind? Because I know that he's going to have something good to say, but I just don't know it yet. So I'm just going to, here's the softball. I trust you with this.
Yeah, and it's so important when you talk about like making them comfortable, especially like on the stage compared to in the lounge, because the lounge is a lot easier. They've had like 5 minutes, they're sitting down. It's a whole different environment than when they were on stage. But like a lot of times you can tell, obviously we're friends with a lot of these players, right? So if like Joe Garte or Justin Karras or like some, Josh Lorsey comes in for a winter interview, like I'm very good friends with them, right? So it's a lot easier for me to set that interview up than with a player who say this might be their first time on stream, or I might not really have as much of a relationship with them, or you can tell they're nervous or something, right? And so a lot of times I'll just talk out loud for them, be like, it's like, okay, so right now, Jake and Rosemary are talking right now. They're discussing the match. At some point, they're going to toss it over to us, and then we'll come over here, and I'll introduce you, give you a cut, I'll just try to talk for like 30 seconds, like as they're sitting in the chair, if I know that they're nervous, to like be like, listen, we're in this together. We're trying to make you look good. Like, we wanted you to have a good personality and have an enjoyable conversation. It's not just like A, B, like a binary. I ask a question, you answer. I ask a question, you answer. Because that's not entertaining for the audience. And I think there's a lot of times I'm watching esports and in certain games where like you hear the interviews and it's just like, it's like, oh my God, like you're doing an interview because you have to, right? Because you're filling time and they just won a game, and like you like this, like their answers don't matter. The person asking doesn't care what it is, like you can tell in certain interviews that like they're doing it because they have to, not because they want to get the personality better. And we try as a team, and I think we succeed very well with I don't know our other games because I'm not listening to their interviews, but on the VG end, we succeed very well at letting our players' personalities shine through those interviews.
Yeah. And then knowing, like, for those that aren't as comfortable doing so, like, not everyone likes being in front of a camera. Some people kind of freeze up a little bit, but then knowing that. So, like, the same way that I said, well, Wolfe will have an answer, so I'm just going to generic ask a question. With people, like, if you notice somebody's not really speaking up, you kind of really target the questions.
Yes.
You kind of read the situation.
You really, in a direction. Yep.
You'd like specifically build up the situation, have it so if they answer short, like that's also fine, but they might be able to also like loosen up and just be like, okay, well now I've explained, I feel comfortable talking this. And I think that's huge. Like my interview, whether it was with Wolfe or with Bill, was dramatically different how it was prepped for, because Wolfe, very generic. Talk about whatever you want. But for Dill, who was still just like awestruck at being in this situation and this crowd and a lot more reserved and shy, it would have been a lot more like leading, like you just won the championships. Like, did you think, like you had said that you didn't think this was possible? Like, why didn't you think it was possible? Like just talking like direct questions. How do you feel now, like having won this? Like, can you believe it? What happened in this game with this very specific scenario? Like, it would have been a lot more direct. And I think that's like very, very important. And I think the last thing too is like having respect for the player. You're saying like some interviews like flop, like with other sports that you've seen because the interviewers just don't care.
Yeah.
Like having respect for the player and what they've been through and you knowing that information. Like going into the interview, you don't need to know what they have for breakfast. Like, don't get me wrong, but like, if I'm talking to a 2-time regional champion, I should know that I'm talking to a 2-time regional champion. Like, put respect on their name, right?
Yep.
know those little tidbits. Not you can't always know everything, especially too with like some of the newer players. But for example, Yosuke Takeyanagi, I had brought up that he used a different restricted in his global challenge run, and I brought that up in the interview. I was like, you use this restricted, like now you swapped over to this, like why was that? So he had an opportunity to talk about his team building, his preparation going into it. And after the interview, he pulled me aside and he thanked me for knowing that. Like he was
Right.
like very happy that I knew this little tidbit of information about him as a player and was able to like use it to talk to him. And like little things like that like really go a long ways, because like we care, and like being able to show the players that we care instead of just saying it like is really good.
Yeah, I think we do a great job. I think also what's good for us is like we don't have to try to show off our knowledge in interviews, because we're a lot of times you're already casting, right? Where I think a lot of other times some interviews, like even in traditional sports, they'll be like, "Oh man, it was 3rd and 13, and you threw the out route right here to the ball." Like they're just trying to show that they're as knowledgeable as the players, but you're just inherently not going to be, no matter how hard you try. So it's not worth it to try to like. It's not worth it in the interview with Wolfe or another really like prominent player to like try to match their level of game knowledge, because you're not going to. So you're going to look fraudulent. You're going to look like you're trying to say, "Oh, I knew what you were doing, Wolfe. I'm just as smart as you are," right? Like, so it doesn't look good. And the interview's not there for you to look good,
Exactly.
right? I have always, my job is to make the interviewee look good. And I'm trying to entertain the audience with entertaining questions and conversations. But like, I don't need anybody to come away with an interview, a 5-minute interview, but like, man, Joe is so smart and so knowledgeable about Pokemon. Like, no, they should be saying like, "Oh man, like Alex Underhill's a really fun team builder and he's a fun guy to talk to," or like that should be the objective of the interview. Nothing about me.
Yeah, like there is very rare circumstances where after an interview, like I feel like there should be anything mentioned about you. Like I think one of the rare cases actually is the fissure speech from Wolfe, because like I ended up putting my head in my hands while he's going on this speech, because I also just didn't know what else to do, because like you also like it is bad for you in that moment to like sit there and like nod and smile, because obviously he's going on this on his rant. Like, what do you mean? Like, and then people had like laughed at my reaction, right? So it's like one of those rare circumstances, I think, where it's okay, but like beyond that, like I shouldn't like really be mentioned in an interview. Like it shouldn't be ever about the host when you like come out of an interview. Like if anything, it'd be like, "Hey, ask good questions," but like that's it.
Yeah.
Beyond that, like it's all about the player. So a thing about the Wolfe interview as well. Prussian Blue Kraken had asked, we already talked about like interviewing Wolfe and stuff, but asked specifically if I knew that he was gonna shout like it wasn't enough, and if I knew the secret beforehand. So part of the knowing the players is like having that little information tidbit. So he actually had that as his fun fact on day 2, but he didn't end up getting broadcast. Like he didn't end up getting interviewed day 2. He wasn't feeling good. I don't think he would have answered anything about the secret because he was waiting to reveal it. But I had it written down that his fun fact was he had the secret. So I didn't know what the secret was. Like we had quickly discussed like beforehand. I was like, secret? Yeah, the secret. Like we knew it was going to be addressed and talked about, but it wasn't like I didn't know what the secret was. Same with the shouting thing. Sometimes at regionals, you can have a little bit more time to talk with the person beforehand of like, this is what we're going to talk about. Sometimes you actually tell the interviewee what questions it's going to be if it helps calm their nerves. For live like stage stuff and at internats, like if you take us like a couple of seconds, like production's like, we need you on stage. Again, they're doing their job. They need to make get you in place. But every second you're behind is another second the casters are vamping while you're not in your spot. So there is no time to talk with the interviewee, and especially not privately, because you're on stage at that very moment. Like after Wolfe had won, the cameras didn't go to the casters. They actually stayed on the stage where Wolfe and Dill were having a conversation. where I had to interrupt said conversation so I could get the interview going. The cameras were never off us. There was no time for a conversation, go over the questions,
Oh,
what
wow.
you're doing. Like, it was on us the entire time. I didn't even know that. So, yeah. So,
It's
you
good thing you didn't,
especially...
like, pick your nose or anything, you know?
I know, right? Just, like, push them out of the way. Well, get over to center stage. What are you doing? No, but, like, it's stuff like that, right? So, I didn't know. I didn't know about the shouting. I didn't know what the secret was. He knew I was going to ask about it. Simple.
You just teed him up, and he hit a home run, you know?
Exactly. Good reveal. That was crazy. For those of you who didn't know the secret, he revealed in the interviews, the final thing, that he ended up winning the global challenge with this team. The first place team, nobody knew who it was. And he revealed that he won with this team, which was crazy.
I think, in retrospect, people probably should have put 2 and 2 together, right? Like,
there was no footage of the team.
No, but like people, he had to have beaten, like, let's say he went 25-1 or whatever, for argument's sake, right, to get the first spot. He had to have faced 26 people with a Parish song team right at the top of the ladder. Like, people could have been like, this Parish trap team is doing well. I wonder who's piloting it, you know?
There was no name. There was no, like, no recording, like, no recorded footage of it. Like, that's the biggest way, like, people get leaked in the teams is, like, someone will be streaming and they pair up against people and you can see. Like, I don't think a single person caught his team on video.
I do also appreciate his stance that he's like, he did not earn championship points for the global challenge, and he is not intending on it because essentially his point of trying to evade and keep the information to himself and keep it private, like, you can't have the best of both worlds. So he is willing, one, he doesn't need it because he already qualified by winning a regional, so he doesn't actually need CP. But like, I guess travel awards it matters for, but like, he is consciously choosing to sacrifice championship points in the name of keeping privacy of his team. So, like, I appreciate that he's not going to now retroactively try to have that CP linked to his main account. He was like, no, I consciously chose that even if I win this, I'm not going to get any more championship points off it.
I don't think he'd be allowed to anyway.
Yeah, he wouldn't be. But I'm just saying,
not to take away.
There was people were asking, like, oh, so now, like, should they switch it back? Oh, now that we do know who it is or whatever, should they award him the points? And he was saying, no, I don't want the points. It was a conscious decision I made.
Yeah, which is good that he's not trying. I think even if he did try, like, I think they were pretty clear because people used to play with, like, the 2 carts and then, like, whatever is better and all that. I think it would just open way too many doors if he did it and then asked for points and they gave him points, like they made an exception or anything. So
I think he's just setting a good example. So now in the future, other people can't try to double dip. Yeah.
Exactly. He's straight up like, I'm not taking them. So that doesn't even put Pokemon in a weird situation, and it's just easy peasy. Easy peasy, squeezy lemon.
Lemon squeezy.
Yeah.
All right. We ready to go to bed so we can wake up bright and early for Pokemon Day?
We still have to do quick predictions and our question of the week.
I don't. Well, isn't it the same thing? Isn't our question of the week the same thing?
Sure.
Okay, hold on. Let me pull it up. I forgot.
Okay, well, like, kind of. So the question of the week was from Split Second. If we go to the route for the Pokemon Presents, what new megas, if any, and starters do we see for Legend CA? We don't even know if this is going to get announced tomorrow or anything about it.
Our podcast is going up after the presentation. Yeah.
But I do think, like, talking about what new megas we would like, we could see, etc. would be good. But before we get into that, I did want to talk about generic predictions that we have for tomorrow, which is why I thought that'd be first. So, like, what do we expect coming out of the Presents?
Okay. So
Which is again funny because this is uploaded hours after the Presents comes out.
Everybody is literally just gonna laugh at us. That's why I feel like we shouldn't spend like too long conversations on predictions because we'll already be in another world where it's already out. But like, there's some of the easy layups every year. Just like put the freaking Gen 1 and Gen 2 games on the Nintendo Switch Online. Let us play it. I don't know if they ever will. I think maybe there's a chance for the 30th anniversary they could do it, but My prediction would be like, I don't know, let's say a new Pokemon movie gets announced, because I feel like we haven't had a movie in a while. Maybe a movie starring these new protagonists from the new Netflix show. My prediction is we don't get Black and White remake announcements. I just don't think, I don't know. So it's my thoughts. I could do it totally wrong. We're definitely getting a ZA update and a release date, I would imagine. And then if there's like another Pokemon game, like, do I think they will announce a side non-canon, non-mainline game? I'm gonna say no. I'm gonna be pessimistic there. I don't know. I could be wrong, but what are your thoughts?
Okay, so I don't think they will, but every single year I hope for the same thing. Again, Gen 1, 2, and they could release 3. That also works pretty easily as a virtual console on the Switch. It's free money, Pokemon. It's literally free money. I don't know how hard it is to get a virtual console. I know nothing about this stuff. I really don't think it's that hard.
And I don't care. I want it. Oh, I don't care if it's hard. I want it.
Do you hate money? Genuine, like, I don't understand. You don't get any money from people reselling these old games of these games that they love. They will pay the $10, $20, heck, $30, $40 to play it on the Switch. I'll just play it on the Switch. Drives me nuts. But yeah, that's what I want. Legends EA trailer, I think that's pretty just like standard. I also don't think any remakes. There's going to be a Cafe Remix update I don't care about. There's going to be a Pokemon Masters update I don't care about. There's going to be a Pokemon Go event that I'm probably not going to care about. Sorry.
TCG Pocket has a new
TCG Pocket has an update.
Or whatever, right?
Yeah. I always forget to open my stuff. I'm not like, this game's all wrong for me. Like, something I have to open every day. It ain't for me. I like the game. It's just, it isn't, like, mentally, like, I can't do that. So
yeah.
TCG Pocket update I'll care about, but probably won't really get to use that much. I think, I'm hoping. So there was a Pokemon Auto Chess brought as a game mode to Unite in China.
Yep.
And I am hoping that they announce that worldwide tomorrow. I think
it's too early. I hope it is. I hope I'm wrong, but
it's too early.
I don't know.
Because even if they do like a announcement, but we're not releasing it till later,
I would take that.
I will take that. Like, I do think that it is decently early, but I think if it's already in Unite anyways, auto chests are very popular. Give us the game.
God, I need it so bad. Yeah, I need it. Literally, I need it yesterday.
I know. So, yeah, I think with the Legends ZA, that one more announcement on top of it. Movie seems to make sense. If it is the virtual console, that would be it. But yeah, I don't see anything other big. Like, yeah. I think it'll be a pretty standard Pokemon Presents. I think there's going to be a lot of disappointed people, unfortunately, because they'll be hoping that there's ZA announcement and an additional game. I don't think we're getting a full additional game. I think hoping for the auto chess or a virtual content console is the best you're going to get. So,
yeah. Now, the important question: the megas.
Yes.
Because that was also part of Split Second's question of the week for us, which we did forget to say. If you ever do have a question of the week for us to answer, join our Discord in the description down below. And we always answer one question at the end of every episode from our listeners. So if we expect new megas to be added, right, just like there were new alternate forms in the Hisuian form, so we imagine there will be new forms of Pokemon, which 3 starters. Let's just keep it with the starters, because we can say, Dragonite, and Mega Flygon and Mega Melodic, like the ones that everybody always says, right? Let's just predict it hard right here, Sierra. What 3 starter Pokemon, first partner Pokemon, excuse me, are going to get new forms and new Mega Evolutions in Legends ZA?
It's funny because I actually think that we answered specifically with the starters for ZA a bit ago. And I was pretty happy with the 3 that I picked, but I don't remember them. Now I'm going to pick 3 other ones I'm unhappy with.
But think about it. Like, you answered that question probably like 14 months ago. Like, the odds that you're going to remember the exact 3 are very low. Because it's been so long since we've gotten ZA news.
Yeah, it's been a while. I think Snivy.
Okay.
They could give it legs for the Mega. Just like some really long legs. Like,
I just want Machamp arms on a superior. You know what I mean?
think of like runner legs, like almostly, and like give that to Superior on top of like the already super long snake that he is. It would just be hilarious. They Snivy. Cinderace.
Cinderace is probably, that's a popular answer.
Mudkip.
Okay. I could see those are all maybe
I know
not
that's
Snivy.
not my original list.
No, it's fine. I'm trying to think, like, I don't know if Snivy would be the most popular grass starter to choose. But the other, like, definitely Mudkip and Cinderace would be, like, very popular choices. I think for me, I'm going to just stick with the pattern because Pokemon is very repetitious in their design. And last time around, we had a Gen 2, a Gen 4, and a Gen 7. So I'm going to say Gen 7 is Incineroar, Gen 4 is Torterra, and Gen 2 is Feraligatr. I don't know what their types are going to be, but that's my prediction. Those are the 3 starters in ZA.
Now for megas that you want to see. We'll do like what mega that we want involved. Which I already like. I don't like megas, but I'll play along with the question.
Crazy.
There are some megas that are cool. Mega Sceptile, for example, clean.
Mega Lucario, badass.
Mid.
What? You throw out Sceptile and you disrespect Mega Lucario?
Lucario's. You know what Lucario gets?
What?
More spikes and fur.
Bro.
I had somebody come up to me over the weekend. Oh my god, people at EUIC were so nice. And she listens to the podcast. Had amazing cosplays, by the way. Murad on day 1, Carmen day 2.
Nice.
Insane. But she called out. She's like, "Your Megas rant was so funny. It is just more spikes." And it warmed my heart because that rant was forever ago.
Did you give her a sticker? Did you remember your stickers?
No, because the only day I remember to bring them was Championship Sunday, and you know how Championship Sundays are.
Yeah, you have no time on Sundays.
Yeah. So
brutal.
Yeah.
I would say what would be cool is if we actually get some Gen 6 Pokemon, right? Because the only Gen 5 Mega was Audino, which was, left a lot to be desired, to say the least. And obviously, and no X and Y Pokemon got them. So I think it would be cool if the original trio starters got Megas, like if they're going to do that, and that also keeps it consistent with, remember in X and Y, we had 2 sets of starters, right? You had the X and Y starters and then the Kanto starters. So like you can have the ZA starters and the the Kalos starters. Other Gen 6 Pokemon I'm trying to think. I think Mega Aegislash, which I hate saying that, but that's how it's pronounced. Mega Aegislash would be badass, like give it more stats and,
cool.
Like keep doing the King Shield, whatever form swapping thing. But that could be like a boss, I think, a new Mega of that. Supposed to be like Mega Pyroar, maybe? Like there weren't a lot of Kalos Pokemon, right? It was only like 80 of them. Mega Trevenant would probably slap, give it like a better ability. Because that Ghost Grass typing is pretty strong.
Mega Galvantula?
Maybe, I don't know. I'm trying. There's not a lot of Pokemon.
I'm not a fan of that one.
No, I'm not a fan. Because he's like, I don't know. He's weird. Galvantula is weird. Also, Galvantula is Gen 5. So,
I was just saying a cool Pokemon.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, so I will lock in my starters, and then I'll say Mega Aegislash. God, it's so awkward to say.
I'm going to say Mega Volcarona. I think it'd be cool. just make it Slitherwing. You go back to ultimate form, and it just goes back to being Slitherwing, modern day.
I like it.
It'd be super cool. I think a couple cool Pokemon. Talonflame's awesome.
Oh, Mega Talonflame would sell so much merch.
Yeah, that'd be cool. I don't like Dragonite, but I do think that like a Mega Dragonite would be potentially a cool concept. I think that one could be cool.
Mega Chokakiss would be cool, I feel like. I don't know.
I already have like bad memories of like Togekiss in general. I think Mega Druddigon is needed.
That'd be cool. Who was Gen 6?
Well,
It
it's
would be
just
Goodra, right? It was Gen 6, but I think they're
But
gonna give
it's
us
like
other generations. I agree with you.
well,
I'm
it's
just saying.
like Druddigon specifically because it has no pre-evolution or evolution after, and it's just pretty mid with how it is. So it's kind of just fixing that line, right?
Yeah.
Is more so like what I'm kind of trying to go for.
Oh, do you think? Hold on. This is our last person. Do you think a legendary can get a mega? Like, you know, obviously Mewtwo has it. Like Latios have megas. Like,
Are they just going to do Mega Yveltal and Mega Xerneas?
wait, what if it's not mega? What? This is so funny. People listening, our
If it's still, like,
conversations are.
primal?
What if it's primal Yveltal and primal Xerneas? That's kind of hype.
Same difference.
It's kind of hype. I'm just throwing it out there.
Kind of the same thing.
I'm all for it.
I do think that like the primal stuff was cooler than just like straight up megas, like Primal Groudon, Primal Kyogre. I thought the concept was cool, so I could be for it.
Okay, well, let's go to bed, wake up early, and make sure we catch this stream that everyone's already known all the information.
Oh, yeah. By the time people watch this, we'll have already known, and we'll have a good laugh and probably chats in the Discord and all that good stuff. But if you made it to this point in the episode, thank you so much. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel. We're on the road to 2K. And if you're interested in talking with a wonderful Pokemon community, make sure to be joining the OHKO Discord. Thank you again all for listening. We'll see you next week for the next episode of OHKO. Take care.